If you're trying to grow your website in Pinterest these days, I want you to stop for a second, guys, because there is a lot of Pinterest advice floating around right now. Create more pins, create fresh URLs, use keywords, build topical authority, use AI, don't use AI, post every day, post 5 times a day, and on we go. And honestly, after hearing all of this, it becomes very difficult to know what you should actually be doing. So in this video, I want to simplify it, guys. I'm going to take some of the things that are currently being discussed about Pinterest algorithm, explain what I think is actually useful, tell you what I would ignore, and then show you the strategy I am personally testing on my own website, theportablelaundry.com. And there is one important difference here, guys. I am not going to pretend that I have some secret Pinterest algorithm formula. I don't. What I do have is data from my own website, and I'm watching what happens when I change what I publish. And one thing that is becoming very interesting for me is craft content on my website. So let's get into it. So, guys, the first thing that I want you to do is stop thinking that Pinterest is only about creating more pins. This is probably the biggest shift in the way I think about Pinterest. For a long time, Pinterest marketing was heavily focused on creating lots and lots of pin designs. You had one blog post, you then created 10 graphics, then 20 graphics, then you distributed those graphics everywhere. And there was a time when the strategy made a lot of sense. But I don't think you should build your entire Pinterest strategy around that anymore. The bigger question is I would ask is, what new content are you giving Pinterest to understand? That's a very different question, guys. Because a brand new pin graphic pointing to an old article is still pointing Pinterest toward the same underlying piece of content, whereas a genuinely new article gives you a new URL, a new topic, new imagery, new text, and potentially a completely different search opportunity. So, based on the data that I have gathered so far, my initial observation is that fresh URLs can receive an initial distribution that an old URL with another pin design may not receive. I think that's one of the most useful ideas to take away, guys. But I would make one change. Don't interpret this as old content is dead. That's not what I would do. I have older content that can still work. Instead, think of it like this: new content creates new opportunities. Old content gives you something to continue improving. So, if you're spending 90% of your time creating new graphics for old articles and almost no time creating genuinely useful new articles, I would rethink that balance. With that said, I've started my biggest Pinterest experiment right now, and this is a good point to tell you what I am actually doing. I have started a new series where I am testing Pinterest for 90 days. The goal is very simple. I want to see how much Pinterest can actually bring to a website when I deliberately focus on the platform and document what happens. And as I'm recording this video, I'm literally just one day into that experiment. So, no, I don't have some magical result to show you yet from that experiment, and that's actually the point. I'm going to show you the good stuff, the bad stuff, the things that don't work, and hopefully the things that do. So if you want to follow along with a real life Pinterest case study rather than just hearing another person tell you what the algorithm supposedly wants, consider subscribing to the channel and hitting the bell notification icon, guys. Because over these 90 days, we are going to find out what happens. And the interesting part is that this video isn't coming out of nowhere. I'm basing the strategy partly on what I'm already seeing on my website, theportablelaundry.com. I have been looking at which types of content are getting picked up and which aren't. And right now, craft related content is giving me some interesting signal, guys. So I'm testing more craft content, not because I believe Pinterest has some secret craft gets traffic rule. I'm testing it because my own data is giving me a reason to test it. That distinction is really important, guys. And that's why you must follow your own winners, guys. This is probably the biggest mistakes I see people make. They see somebody else's Pinterest account doing well with something, then they immediately copy the topic. But what works for one website doesn't automatically works for yours. Instead, I would look at your own account and ask what is getting impressions, what is getting outbound clicks, what topics are getting saves, what type of content keeps appearing in your analytics, and most importantly, what can I create more of. For me, it's crafts. Crafts are giving me enough of a signal that I'm willing to run an experiment around them. So I'm not saying everyone watching this video should create craft content. I'm saying find your version of crafts. Maybe it's recipes, maybe it's home decor, maybe it's parenting, maybe it's gardening, maybe it's printable activities, maybe it's fashion. The principle is the same. When Pinterest gives you a signal, don't immediately move to another topic, guys. Give that signal enough content to prove whether it is real. And this brings me to another point, and I think it is very important, guys, and that is topical authority. The basic idea is simple. Don't make your website look like a random collection of everything you happen to be interested in. Let's say today you publish a craft content, tomorrow you publish a recipe, the next day you publish a finance article, then you publish a pet article, then a home decor article, then a travel article. Every individual article might be good, But you are giving both users and platforms a much harder job, guys. Instead, build content around related topics. Let's say you are creating children's craft. You don't write one article and then abandon the topic. You create several related pieces, guys, such as animal crafts, seasonal crafts, clay crafts, paper plate crafts, holiday crafts, preschool crafts, and on we go. Now you're creating an ecosystem, guys. And this is where I think Pinterest becomes much more interesting. One piece of content can lead you to another, one topic gives you ideas for the next topic, and suddenly you are not desperately trying to find something to publish tomorrow. You have a complete content ecosystem. That being said, don't niche down blindly, guys. There is one thing I would add here. Don't hear topical authority and decide that you need to become ridiculously narrow. You don't need to create 100 articles about exactly the same keyword. That's not the goal here. The goal is to have related content that makes sense together. Think in terms of a topic neighborhood. For example, if my core audience is interested in children's crafts, there are hundreds of related things I can talk about without writing the same article 100 times. That's much more natural, guys, and it also gives me room to test. Maybe clay crafts outperforms paper craft. Great. Now I have something to investigate, guys. Maybe seasonal craft outperforms evergreen crafts. Again, that's the data. Maybe animal crafts are getting clicks while the generic DIY projects aren't. Now I have another signal. This is how I want you to approach Pinterest, guys. Don't guess forever. Test it. Now let's talk about boards. Guys, your account should not look like a junk drawer. If somebody visits your profile and sees completely unrelated topics everywhere, that's probably not helping your positioning. But I would not spend weeks obsessing over boards, guys. This is where I think some Pinterest marketers lose the plot. They spend 3 days rewriting board descriptions, they rename everything, they move the pins around, they create another 20 boards, and then they wonder why their website did not grow. I would rather spend that time creating useful content. So yes, keep your boards relevant. Yes, organize them, use clear description, but don't mistake account housekeeping for a growth strategy. Your content is the engine. Your boards are the supportive infrastructure. With that said, your images still matter massively, guys. Now here's something I definitely would not ignore. Pinterest is a visual platform, so your pin needs to communicate what the content is about almost instantly. And Pinterest has become much better at understanding the images, guys. That means I would not create a beautiful graphic that tells nobody what they are actually looking at. If I'm creating a pin about a clay animal craft, I want the actual craft to be obvious. It should have good lighting and clear subject, not 10 things competing for attention, guys. Readable text should be the primary focus and a design that makes sense on mobile screen as well. This is especially important for craft content because the finished project itself is often the selling point. And if I make a really cute air dry clay craft, I don't want the graphic buried underneath five different elements. I want people to see the craft. Then I want the text to make the promise clear. Something like easy air dry clay chicken craft or something of that sort. That's immediately understandable, guys. Now let's talk about AI. This is another area where I think people can go too far. AI is incredibly useful, guys. I use AI as well, but I don't think the strategy should be how many articles can I generate today, because producing more content doesn't automatically mean producing more useful content. And I have similar observation around low quality, repetitive AI content potentially being less useful or less visible across my client sites. Therefore, my approach is different, guys. I use AI to speed up the work. I use it for brainstorming. I use it for research organization. I use it to find angles you may have missed. But I always add my own personal experiences, guys. I add original examples. I add my own photos wherever possible. I add actual instructions. I add things that someone who has done the project would know. That is where my advantage comes from. And with craft content, this is especially powerful. If I've actually made the craft, I can tell you that this clay was too thick, this part cracked, this glue worked better, give this piece more drying time. That's the type of information AI cannot magically invent from my actual experience, guys. And that's the type of information I want my content to have. Next up is post more mentality problem. You will constantly hear numbers that says post 5 times a day, post 10 times a day, post 20 times a day, create 3 to 5 fresh pins per article, and so on. But here's the problem, guys. If you don't have enough good content, increasing your publishing volume doesn't solve the underlying problem. It just creates more average content. I would rather have a strong article with several genuinely different pin concepts than create a mountain of nearly identical graphics. And I would rather publish consistently than go crazy for 3 days and disappear for 2 weeks. Consistency is boring, guys, but boring works. With that said, let's take a quick look at the strategy I am testing. So here's what I'm actually doing, guys. I'm looking at the data from the portablelaundry.com, and then I'm identifying the content themes that are showing promising signals. Right now, crafts are one of those areas. Then I'm creating more content around those themes. I'm not abandoning everything else overnight. I'm testing. That's the important word, guys, testing. Then I'm creating Pinterest graphics that actually represent the content. I'm watching the impressions, I'm watching the outbound clicks, I'm watching which topics get engagement, and I'm looking for patterns as well, guys, because one successful pin doesn't prove anything, but if I see the same type of content performing repeatedly, now I have something. That's when I double down. And there's another trap that I want you to avoid, guys, and that is impressions. Don't chase impressions alone, guys. Impressions look great. You can open Pinterest analytics and see a big number, but ask yourself what happened after that impression. Did someone click? Did someone save the pin? Did they visit your website? Did they read another article? Did they eventually become a subscriber or customer? Because ultimately, I don't want a website that just has pretty Pinterest numbers. I want Pinterest to send actual people to my website, guys. That's why outbound clicks are something I pay close attention to. If one topic gets 100,000 impressions and almost nobody clicks, while another gets 20,000 impressions and generates meaningful website visits, I don't automatically call the first one the winner. The business outcome matters, guys. So, guys, if I were starting from scratch today, here's exactly where I would begin. Number one, pick a clear audience, not just a random collection of Pinterest keywords. Who are you trying to help? Number two, pick a few closely related content themes. Don't try to cover the entire internet. Number three, create genuinely useful content around those themes. Number four, create strong visual pins for that content. Number five, use Pinterest naturally. Write titles and descriptions that explain what the content is actually about. Don't stuff keywords everywhere, guys. Number six, organize your boards so the account makes sense. Don't spend your entire week doing board maintenance. And number seven, watch your analytics. Then do more of what is working, guys. That last part is probably the most important thing. So, is there one secret algorithm trick that will suddenly make your website explode? I don't think so. And honestly, if somebody tells you there is, I would be very careful about that, guys. Pinterest is changing, user behavior is changing, competition changes, your content changes, and your own website data is changing as well. So, I don't want to build my strategy around one hack. I want to build it around a process. Create, publish, measure, learn. Then create more of what works. That's the approach that I'm taking with my website, theportablelaundry.com. So, guys, if you're trying Pinterest yourself for the first time or having a hard time succeeding on Pinterest, here's what you should do. Pick one audience, pick a few related topics, create useful content, make good visuals, stay consistent, and most importantly, watch what your own data is telling you. Because the best Pinterest strategy for your website may not be the strategy that works for mine. That's exactly what I'm trying to find out. Thanks for watching. See you at the other side.